Commander Vextahul of the Zephyrian Empire stood before the bridge's main viewport, his forearms crossed in what he considered a pose of supreme authority. His purple-scaled hide gleamed under the ship's artificial lighting, and his three eyes focused on the distant blue-green marble that the humans called Earth. While one of his eyes focused on Earth, the other two were busy admiring his reflection in the polished metal bulkhead. "Captain Blort," he announced in his most commanding voice, which sounded like a cross between a dying whale and a garbage disposal, "prepare the fleet for our glorious conquest of the human settlement." What did they call it again? Captain Blort, a considerably smaller and significantly more nervous member of the same species, consulted his datapad with all 6 of his tentacle fingers. "New Terra colony, sir. Population approximately 50,000 humans." 50,000. Vextahul's laugh echoed through the bridge like someone gargling gravel. "My dear Blort, we have more crew members on this flagship alone. This will be easier than stealing candy from a Plutonian infant." Blort's scales shifted to a worried shade of gray-green. "Sir, with respect, I've been reading the intelligence reports on humans, and there are some concerning patterns." Vextahul turned, his middle eye rolling dramatically. "What patterns could possibly concern us? We have plasma cannons that can level mountains. We have shields that can deflect asteroids. We have technology these primitives couldn't dream of understanding." "Yes, sir, but according to our scouts, humans have this tendency to what? Build mud huts and throw rocks." Vextahul waved 2 of his arms dismissively. "Blort, these creatures only discovered faster-than-light travel 3 centuries ago. We've had it for over 2 millennia. They're practically still banging rocks together." Blort's color deepened to a more pronounced shade of worry green. "Sir, they also have this documented behavior called getting creative when cornered, and their military history suggests military history." Vextahul's bellow interrupted his second-in-command. "You mean their adorable little wars where they threw metal projectiles at each other?" "Blort, we're going to use this as a training exercise for our newer officers. Operation Gentle Conquest we'll call it." "Gentle Conquest, sir." "Indeed. We'll demand their surrender. They'll wet themselves in terror. We'll occupy their little colony for a few days to let our troops practice their intimidation techniques, and then we'll move on to Earth proper. Think of it as a warm-up before the real show." Around the bridge, junior officers nodded enthusiastically, their scales brightening with anticipation. These were mostly fresh academy graduates who had never seen actual combat, let alone combat with a species known for what their instructors had politely termed tactical unpredictability. Blort made one last attempt at reason. "Commander, the reports specifically mention that humans become increasingly dangerous when they feel their families are threatened, and this is a civilian colony with enough." Vextahul's roar silenced the bridge. "Captain Blort, your excessive caution is noted and dismissed. We have 17 heavy cruisers, 43 destroyers, and enough firepower to glass a small moon. They have, what? Farming equipment and good intentions. Well, sir, they do have nothing that matters." Vextahul straightened to his full imposing height of 7 feet, which would have been more impressive if humans weren't routinely that tall anyway. "Signal the fleet. Set course for New Terra colony. Today the Zephyrian Empire takes its first step toward claiming the human sector." As the massive fleet adjusted course, Blort quietly updated his personal log with a note that would later prove prophetic. Day 847 of the expedition. "Commander Vextahul has decided to attack a human colony as practice. I have a terrible feeling we're about to discover why every other species in the galaxy has a strict observe humans from a safe distance policy." The fleet moved through space like a metallic storm cloud, bristling with weapons and confidence in equal measure, completely unaware that they were about to become the galaxy's most expensive educational experience. 3 hours later, the Zephyrian fleet hung in orbit around New Terra colony, like a collection of very expensive, very threatening Christmas ornaments. The colony itself sprawled across a continent-sized landmass, looking deceptively peaceful, with its neat geometric farms, modest cities, and the kind of infrastructure that screamed, "We're just trying to live our lives here, thanks." Commander Vextahul activated the Universal Communication Array, with a flourish that would have made a theater actor proud. "Attention, primitive humans of New Terra colony. I am Commander Vextahul of the Zephyrian Empire. You are hereby ordered to surrender unconditionally to our superior forces. You have 30 of your minutes to comply." The response came back almost immediately, which was the first sign that things weren't going to go according to plan. "Yeah, hi there, Commander. Sorry, what was it?" "Vextahul, this is Jake Morrison, Colony Administrator. I'm going to need you to hold on just a minute while I pull up the proper forms." Vexed Hull's three eyes blinked in sequence, which was the Zephyrian equivalent of a computer trying to process an error. Forms. Oh, absolutely. See, we can't just surrender willy-nilly, there's paperwork involved. Bureaucracy, you know how it is. Probably have something similar in your empire, right? Now, are you looking for a conditional surrender, unconditional surrender, or more of a timeshare arrangement? Because I've got different forms for each. Captain Blort leaned over to whisper, "Sir, I don't think they're taking this seriously." "I can hear you, Captain Blort." Jake's voice crackled through the comm. "Nice to meet you too. Now, Commander Vexed Hull, right, sorry. Commander Vexed Hull, I'm going to need some information for the forms. What's your species' official designation for conquest? Are we talking military occupation, cultural assimilation, or just a hostile takeover? And do you accept electronic signatures, or do we need to do this in hard copy?" On the bridge, junior officers were exchanging confused glances. This wasn't how their simulations had gone at all. "Human," Vexed Hull's voice took on what he imagined was a menacing tone. "You seem to misunderstand the situation. We have 17 heavy cruisers aimed at your pathetic settlement. Surrender now or face annihilation." 17, that's it? Jake sounded genuinely disappointed. The Centauri Trade Guild brought 23 ships when they wanted to negotiate farming rights. "Are you sure you're taking this seriously?" A new voice joined the conversation, female and crisp with efficiency. "Jake, you're being rude to our guests. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, Chief Science Officer. Commander Vexed Hull, would you mind transmitting your technical specifications? I'm seeing some interesting energy signatures that I'd love to analyze." "You want our technical specifications?" Vexed Hull was beginning to feel like he'd wandered into someone else's nightmare. "Well, yes, if we're going to surrender, I should at least document what we're surrendering to. For the record, you understand. Oh, and Jake, make sure you file this under alien contact, hostile not alien contact, trade negotiation. We don't want another filing mix-up like with the Betelgeations." "Already on it, Elena." "Commander, I'm going to need your full name, rank, serial number and home planet for the surrender documentation. Also, do you have any dietary restrictions? Colony regulations require us to provide adequate nutrition for occupying forces." Vexed Hull felt his scales shifting to a confused shade of purple-orange. "We are not here for dinner, we are here for conquest." "Right, conquest. Got it. Still need those dietary restrictions though. Health and safety regulations, you understand. Can't have anyone getting sick on our watch. That would be a lawsuit waiting to happen." "Lawsuit?" This came from Captain Blort, who was frantically taking notes. "Oh, you don't have those? Well, you're in for a treat. Elena, are you getting readings on their weapons systems?" "Fascinating stuff, Jake. Plasma-based energy weapons, particle beam arrays, and what looks like some sort of gravitational manipulation technology. Honestly, Commander, your engineering is quite impressive. Mind if I ask about the power coupling systems? I'm seeing some inefficiencies that might be easily corrected." Vexed Hull's command training had not prepared him for having his military technology critiqued by his intended victims. "You will not analyze our weapons." "Oh, too late for that," Elena replied cheerfully. "I've already identified 3 potential failure points, and 2 ways to improve your energy efficiency by roughly 15%. Would you like me to send over the calculations?" "This is impossible," Vexed Hull muttered, loud enough for the comm to pick up. "What's impossible?" Jake asked. "The surrender forms, because I can simplify them if you want. We have a basic package that's just 2 pages instead of the full 15-page comprehensive version." 15 pages. Well, sure. There's the initial surrender agreement, the terms of occupation, the prisoner rights documentation, the cultural preservation clauses, the environmental impact statements, the food service requirements I mentioned earlier, and of course the liability waivers. "Oh, you definitely want those. Trust me on this one." 27 minutes later, Commander Vexed Hull had reached his limit. His scales had cycled through every color in the Zephyrian emotional spectrum, including 2 that weren't supposed to exist outside of extreme psychological distress. "Enough," he roared, cutting off Jake's explanation of subsection 12 said regarding proper waste disposal during military occupation. "We are done with your ridiculous forms. Prepare for invasion." "Oh well, that's disappointing." Jake sighed over the comm. "I was really looking forward to seeing how you handled the catering requirements." "Elena, looks like they're going with the hostile approach after all." "Shame," Elena replied. "I was hoping to get a closer look at their shield generators." "Oh well, I suppose I'll have to settle for the wreckage." "The wreckage?" Vexed Hull sputtered. "You know, after." "Don't worry about it, Commander." "Jake, Should I activate the welcome protocols? Might as well. Roy's been itching to test his new modifications anyway. As the first wave of Zephyrian landing craft descended toward the colony's main settlement, Vexed Hull allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Finally, things were proceeding according to plan. His troops would land, overwhelm the primitive humans with superior firepower, and the first landing craft exploded in mid-air. What was that? Vexed Hull demanded. Captain Blort was frantically consulting his instruments. Sir, it appears they have anti-aircraft defenses we didn't detect. Impossible. Our scans showed no military installations. Down on the surface, a gravelly voice joined the communication channel. Howdy there, alien folks. Name's Roy Thompson, Chief of Maintenance. Sorry about your spacecraft there. That was my new potato cannon modification. Turns out if you strap enough chemical propellant to a farming projectile, it packs quite a punch. A potato cannon. Vexed Hull's voice cracked. Well, technically it's a multi-purpose agricultural launch system, but yeah, we mostly used it for potatoes until today. Sweet potatoes work better though. They're denser. Who knew? Another landing craft exploded. That was carrots, Roy announced helpfully. Been experimenting with root vegetables all season. Sir, one of his junior officers called out. Landing craft 7 reports they're taking fire from children. Jake's voice returned to the channel. Oh yeah, sorry about that. The kids think it's some kind of video game. We've been trying to get them inside, but you know how it is. Tommy Martinez just hit level 15 on his jury-rigged plasma slingshot. Plasma slingshot. Elena helped him build it from spare parts and a broken microwave. Kids these days, so creative. Vexed Hull watched in growing horror as his precision military operation devolved into chaos. Landing craft were being destroyed by farming equipment. Children with improvised weapons, and what appeared to be an elderly human wielding a walking stick that somehow generated electromagnetic pulses. Captain Blort, what is happening? I'm not entirely sure, sir. The humans appear to be fighting back. Of course they're fighting back. But they're supposed to be doing it wrong. Sir, they're supposed to have organized military units, defensive positions, logical tactics. This is just, Vexed Hull gestured helplessly at the tactical display where his invasion markers were being eliminated by icons labeled, Modified Tractor, Improvised Launcher, and Grandma Henderson. Sir, Landing Team 3 reports they've been pinned down by hostile fire from what appears to be a daycare center. A daycare center. Roy's voice crackled through the comm again. Oh, that'll be Miss Patterson's group. She's got the 4-year-olds today. Fair warning, Commander. Those kids have been practicing with water balloons all summer. Turns out they've got pretty good aim when you fill the balloons with Elena's experimental adhesive compound. Your 4-year-olds are using chemical weapons. Chemical weapons. Nah, it's just super glue mixed with glitter. Though I suppose it does make it real hard to see once it hits your face mask, and the glitter makes everything sparkle real nice. On the tactical display, more invasion markers winked out. Landing Team 5 had been neutralized by what the computer identified as hostile flora. Hostile flora. Vexed Hull whispered. That'd be Mrs. Chen's prize-winning pumpkins. Jake explained. Elena helped her modify the growth accelerant this year. Turns out if you pump enough nutrients into a pumpkin vine, it gets ideas about becoming mobile. Who knew plants had such strong opinions about property rights? Captain Blort leaned closer to his commander. Sir, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. Absolutely not. Vexed Hull's pride was now fully engaged. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not retreat from farmers and children. What about carnivorous vegetables? We do not retreat from carnivorous vegetables either. But even as he said it, watching another landing craft flee from what appeared to be a very angry garden, Vexed Hull was beginning to suspect that perhaps, just perhaps, the intelligence reports about humans had been trying to tell him something important. 2 hours into what was supposed to be a simple occupation, Commander Vexed Hull stood before his tactical display, looking like someone who had just discovered that gravity was optional and physics was more of a suggestion than a law. Status report, he croaked. Sir, Captain Blort consulted his increasingly frantic notes. We've lost 37 landing craft to what the humans are calling creative agriculture. Landing Team 12 is trapped in what they describe as a bouncy castle of doom, and Team 15 reports they're being held hostage by something called a book club. Apparently they're discussing a novel about military strategy and want our soldiers' opinions on the tactical decisions. They've been there for 45 minutes. Down on the surface, Dr. Elena Vasquez's voice crackled through the comm with barely contained excitement. Commander Vexed Hull, I just wanted to thank you for the wonderful research opportunity. I've successfully reverse-engineered your shield technology using 3 coffee makers, a toaster, and some creative wiring. The energy patterns are fascinating. You reverse-engineered our shields with kitchen appliances. Well, technically I used Roy's workshop too, and Jake's old gaming computer. Oh, and Mrs. Peterson's knitting needles turned out to be perfect for the fine calibration work. Knitting needles. Titanium alloy, naturally. She's very serious about her crafts. Anyway, I've managed to create a localized deflector field that should protect the town square. Want to see it in action? Before Vextahul could respond, one of his orbital bombardment platforms fired a test shot at the colony's main building. The energy beam struck what looked like empty air 20 feet above the structure and dissipated in a shower of sparks that spelled out "Welcome to New Terrain" in 3 different languages. How did you? Vextahul began. Programming, Elena replied cheerfully. Jake thought it would be funnier if we made the shields decorative too. Oh, and I've uploaded the shield frequency to the colony's social media network. It's already got 12,000 likes. Social media network. Jake's voice joined the conversation. Oh yeah, this whole thing's gone viral. We're trending across 7 star systems. The hashtag alien invasion fail is getting some serious traction. Tommy Martinez's slingshot video has been viewed 3 million times. What's a hashtag? Don't worry about it, Commander. The important thing is that Earth Defense Command has been watching the live stream and they're sending reinforcements. Military reinforcements. Well, sort of. It's mostly farmers from the Centauri colonies who heard about Roy's modifications and want to try them out. Plus some truckers from the Tau City freight runs who were in the neighborhood. Oh, and a tour group from Mars that was looking for something exciting to do. Captain Blort made a strangled noise. Sir, they're being reinforced by tourists. Armed tourists. Jake clarified. The Martian Tourism Board has been advertising authentic alien invasion experiences for months. This is like Christmas morning for them. Roy's voice cut through the channel. Hey Commander, you might want to tell your boys in Sector 7 to watch out for the Henderson twins. They just finished modifying their hoverbikes with Elena's new propulsion system. Propulsion system? Based on your landing craft engines, Elena explained. I managed to isolate the gravitational manipulation principle and scale it down. The twins are calling them alien tech death bikes, but they're really just very fast hoverbikes with plasma exhaust. You gave teenagers plasma-powered vehicles. Well, they already had the hoverbikes. I just made them more interesting. On the tactical display, 2 new signatures appeared, moving at impossible speeds and leaving trails of what looked like rainbow fire. Are those children flying faster than our interceptors? The Henderson twins are 17, Jake replied. Technically not children. Also, they've been modifying vehicles since they were 12, so they know what they're doing. Mostly. Well, Billy crashed through the Johnson's barn last week, but that was before Elena's modifications. He's gotten much better at steering since then. A new alarm sounded on the bridge. Sir, a junior officer reported, our communication frequencies are being jammed by what appears to be music. That'll be the colony's emergency broadcast system, Jake explained. Elena rigged it to transmit on your frequencies. We figured you might enjoy some local culture while you're visiting. The bridge filled with what sounded like a combination of death metal and polka music, punctuated by what appeared to be stand-up comedy. Why is someone telling jokes? That's Bob Miller's Comedy Hour. He does a great routine about alien invasions. Very topical. Oh, and Elena embedded some kind of psychological warfare algorithm in the transmission. Something about disorienting brainwave patterns. Psychological warfare, she read about it in a military history book. Turns out humans have been using music to mess with enemy morale for centuries. Who knew? Captain Blort, who had been frantically monitoring communications, looked up with an expression of pure panic. Sir, I'm receiving reports that our troops are laughing. And some of them are asking for recipe exchanges with the locals. Recipe exchanges. Mrs. Chen's apple pie, sir. Apparently it's very good. Commander Vextahul stared at the tactical display where his invasion force was being systematically defeated by baked goods, teenagers on plasma-powered hoverbikes, and what appeared to be a weaponized book club. In the corner of the screen, a notification blinked indicating that someone had just posted a video titled "Alien Gets Owned by Grandma with Glitter Bomb." Captain Blort, he said quietly. Yes sir, I think we may have made a mistake. If Commander Vexta thought things couldn't get worse, he was about to learn another valuable lesson about underestimating human creativity. It can always get worse, and it will get worse in ways you never imagined were physically possible. The first sign of impending doom came when Jake's voice returned to the communication channel with a tone that had shifted from bureaucratic politeness to something that made Captain Blort's scales turn the color of old seaweed. Commander, I've got some good news and some bad news for you. There's good news, Vextel asked with the desperate hope of a drowning man reaching for a life preserver made of lead. The good news is that your invasion has been such a huge success on social media that Earth Defense Command has officially designated New Terra Colony as a tourist destination. Congratulations, you've created the galaxy's first authentic alien invasion experience theme park. And the bad news? Well, the reinforcements have arrived, and they're really excited to meet you. On the long-range sensors, new signatures began appearing, lots of them. The first wave consisted of 17 modified cargo haulers that had been converted into what the computer generously labeled as improvised assault vehicles but which looked more like flying junkyards with attitude problems. Those are your military reinforcements. Vextel squinted at the display. Oh, those aren't military. That's the Kepler Freight Haulers Association. They heard about Roy's modifications and wanted to try mounting plasma cannons on their rigs. Behind them are the Centauri Agricultural Collective with their combat tractors, and somewhere in the back is a busload of retirees from the Mars Senior Adventure Club. Senior Adventure Club. Average age 73. Commander. They've been looking for something exciting to do since they finished whitewater rafting the Methane Falls on Titan. Fair warning, they play for keeps. Captain Blort was frantically updating his tactical analysis when another wave of signatures appeared on the sensors. These ones were smaller, faster, and moving in patterns that made absolutely no sense to conventional military doctrine. Sir, I'm detecting what appears to be individual civilians in personal spacecraft. Jake's chuckle was audible over the comm. Those would be the teenagers. Word got out about the Henderson twins hoverbike modifications, and every kid with access to a garage and a YouTube tutorial decided they wanted to try fighting aliens too. There's probably about 300 of them out there. 300 teenagers with improvised weapons. Well, technically some of them are in their early 20s, but yeah. Elena's been broadcasting the technical specifications for her modifications on the colony's educational network. You know, for science. Dr. Elena Vasquez-Lois joined the conversation with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for children on Christmas morning. Commander, I hope you don't mind, but I've been analyzing the wreckage from your landing craft, and I've made some fascinating discoveries. Your power coupling system is incredibly inefficient, but your gravitational manipulation technology is brilliant. I've managed to integrate it with our existing infrastructure. What does that mean? Well, remember how I mentioned I'd been working on shield technology? I've made some improvements. Roy, would you mind demonstrating the new colony defense grid? My pleasure, Elena. Commander, you might want to hold on to something. The next thing Vextel knew, his flagship was surrounded by what appeared to be a translucent blue dome that extended from the planet's surface all the way into space. Energy readings spiked across every instrument on the bridge, and somewhere in the back of his mind, the part of him that had actually paid attention during physics classes started screaming. You've created a planetary shield using our technology. Improved it, actually. Elena replied with obvious pride. The original design had some serious power consumption issues. I've managed to increase efficiency by 43% and added some interesting new features. For example, the shield now reflects energy weapons back at their point of origin with compound interest. Compound interest. The longer you shoot at it, the harder it shoots back. I borrowed the concept from human banking systems. Thought you might appreciate the irony. To test this claim, one of Vextel's destroyers fired a plasma burst at the shield. The energy was absorbed, amplified, and returned as a beam roughly 3 times more powerful than the original shot. The destroyer's shields held, but just barely. Fascinating. Elena mused. The shield seems to learn from each attack and adapt its response. I didn't program it to do that, but I suppose that's what happens when you mix human engineering with alien technology and a really good artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. Oh, that's just the colony's central computer. Nothing fancy really. We mostly use it for managing crop rotations and scheduling maintenance, though it has been getting more creative lately. I think it's been reading the internet. Captain Blort leaned over to whisper urgently in his commander's ear. Sir, our tactical computers are detecting massive energy buildup from the planet's surface. It appears the humans have turned their entire colony into a weapon. The entire colony. Jake's voice cut through the comm with what sounded suspiciously like barely contained laughter. Well, not the entire colony. We left the school zone as a safe area. Can't have weapons too close to the children, you know. Safety regulations. But Elena, Roy's voice joined the conversation. Didn't you wire the playground equipment into the defense grid? Oh right, I forgot about that. The swings now generate electromagnetic pulses, and the slide has been converted into a mass driver. But it's perfectly safe as long as no one actually uses the playground during combat operations. You weaponized a playground. Technically, I just made the playground equipment dual purpose. The kids love it. Tommy Martinez set a new distance record on the slide yesterday. He launched himself clear over the Matthews farm. He launched himself. Well, Elena's mass driver modification was supposed to be for launching supply packages, Jake explained. But you know kids. They see a giant slingshot. They want to try it. Good thing Elena included the inertial dampening field. Inertial dampening field. Safety first, Commander. We can't have children getting hurt, even when they're doing incredibly stupid things with experimental technology. On the tactical display, the situation continued to deteriorate in ways that violated several laws of physics and at least 3 conventions of interstellar warfare. The freight haulers had begun using their cargo holds as improvised missile launchers, firing everything from farming equipment to what appeared to be kitchen appliances at the Zephyrian fleet. The agricultural collective had somehow managed to mount their combat tractors with energy weapons that looked suspiciously similar to the Zephyrians' own plasma cannons. Are they using our own weapons against us? Well, Elena's voice carried a note of scientific pride. I may have reverse engineered a few more systems while we were talking. The plasma cannon design is really quite elegant once you work out the power coupling issues. I've made some efficiency improvements there too. You've improved our weapons by about 30%. The farmers are getting much better range and accuracy now. Oh, and I added a setting for non-lethal but extremely embarrassing. The plasma bursts now come in 17 different colors, and you can program them to write messages in the target's hull. As if to demonstrate, one of the combat tractors fired a plasma burst that struck a Zephyrian destroyer and burned the words, "Earth says hello" across its starboard side in bright pink letters. Why pink? Mrs. Patterson's choice. She said it was more friendly than the standard red. Captain Blort was now frantically consulting multiple data pads while his scales cycled through colors that didn't exist in nature. Sir, I'm also detecting that several of our landing craft have been stolen. Not stolen, Jake corrected. Borrowed. The teenagers needed something to practice with after Elena showed them how the gravitational controls work. Don't worry, they'll bring them back when they're done. Probably. Well, Billy Henderson already crashed one into the lake, but he fished it out and got it running again. Turns out alien technology is pretty resilient. Elena's modifications made it even more crash resistant. You modified our landing craft to be more crash resistant. Safety first, Elena replied cheerfully. Can't have the kids getting hurt while they're learning to pilot alien spacecraft. Though I have to admit, their flying style is creative. As if summoned by her words, 3 of the stolen landing craft screamed past the flagship's bridge in a formation that could charitably be described as controlled chaos and more accurately as physics-defying insanity. They were followed by a swarm of teenagers on plasma-powered hoverbikes, all of whom seemed to be having the time of their lives. Sir, a junior officer called out, the enemy teenagers are waving at us. Enemy teenagers. Vextel repeated slowly. Captain Blort, how did we get to the point where I'm considering teenagers on hoverbikes to be enemy combatants? I believe, sir, that it started when we decided to invade a human colony. Right. Of course. That makes perfect sense. Vextel stared at the tactical display where his invasion force was being systematically dismantled by farmers, truckers, retirees, and teenagers, all of whom seemed to be treating the entire situation as some kind of elaborate game. Captain Blort. Yes, sir. I think it's time to admit that we may have bitten off more than we can chew. The retreat of the Zephyrian Empire's invincible fleet would later be described by military historians as the most educational disaster in galactic history, though the participants themselves used considerably less academic language. Commander Vextol stood on his bridge, watching his tactical display with the expression of someone who had just discovered that everything he thought he knew about the universe was wrong, and the universe was having a good laugh about it. Captain Blort, he said with the resigned tone of a man accepting his fate, signal the fleet, full retreat. Yes, sir. What should I tell them about the teenagers following us? Vextol looked at the display where 17 stolen landing craft and approximately 200 plasma-powered hoverbikes were indeed following his retreating fleet, their pilots apparently treating the whole thing as an extended joyride. Tell them the teenagers are escorting us to the edge of the system. Escorting, sir. It sounds better than chasing us away while doing barrel rolls and spelling out rude words with their exhaust trails. Jake Morrison's voice crackled over the comm one final time, still carrying that infuriatingly polite bureaucratic tone. Commander Vextol, before you go, I just wanted to let you know that we've filed all the appropriate paperwork for your visit. You're now officially registered as New Terra Colony's first unsuccessful invasion attempt. We'll be putting up a plaque. A plaque. Oh yes, right next to the monument Elena's designing. She's calling it the day physics cried, a memorial to overconfident alien invasions. It's going to be very educational. We're thinking of making it interactive. Dr. Elena Vasquez's voice joined the conversation with barely contained excitement. Commander, I can't thank you enough for this learning opportunity. The data I've gathered from analyzing your technology will advance human science by decades. I've already filed preliminary patents for 17 new inventions, including improved shield generators, more efficient plasma weapons, and something I'm calling gravitational agricultures that should revolutionize farming. Gravitational agriculture. Turns out if you use your gravitational manipulation technology on crops, you can grow corn that's 3 times larger and potatoes that float. Roy's very excited about the possibilities. Roy's gravelly voice cut through the channel. Damn right I am. Elena, show him the tomatoes. Oh, the tomatoes are fascinating. They've developed what appears to be limited mobility and a preference for sunny spots. Mrs. Chen's garden is going to be spectacular next season. You've created mobile vegetables. Well, technically they're just responding to gravitational field fluctuations, but yes, they do seem to move around quite a bit. The kids love them, though we did have to put up warning signs after one of the pumpkins adopted the Henderson twins. Adopted? It follows them around like a pet. Billy named it Gerald. It's actually quite sweet, for an 800-pound vegetable with abandonment issues. Captain Blort, who had been monitoring fleet communications, looked up from his station with an expression of deep concern. Sir, I'm receiving reports from the Galactic Military Academy. They want to interview our surviving crew members. Interview them, for educational purposes, sir. Apparently our invasion attempt is going to become a case study in what not to do when encountering humans. Jake's chuckle was audible over the comm. Oh, that reminds me, Commander. The Galactic Council has been in touch. They wanted me to let you know that they're implementing something called the Terra Doctrine for all future human contact situations. The Terra Doctrine. It's a comprehensive set of guidelines for interacting with human colonies. The basic gist is approach with extreme caution, bring gifts, and whatever you do, don't try to conquer them unless you want to become a cautionary tale. Also, Elena added helpfully, they're requiring all military academies to include a mandatory course called Human Behavioral Patterns and Why They Don't Make Sense But Work Anyway. I've been asked to guest lecture. You're going to teach alien military officers about human tactics. Well, someone has to explain why fighting humans is like trying to nail jelly to a tree while the jelly is shooting back and making inappropriate jokes about your mother. Roy's voice returned to the channel. Speaking of inappropriate jokes, Commander, you might want to know that the whole thing's been turned into a comedy special. Bob Miller's calling it Aliens Say the Darndest Things. It's been picked up by 17 different networks. A comedy special? Oh, it's hilarious. Jake assured him. Your reaction to the liability waivers was comedy gold. Bob's doing a great impression of you trying to understand human bureaucracy. I'm being mocked by human entertainers. Well, yes, but it's good-natured mocking. Very educational, plus all the proceeds are going to charity. What charity? The Help Confused Aliens Understand Humans Foundation. Elena's idea. We figured if we're going to be the galaxy's go-to example of why you shouldn't mess with humans, we might as well make it educational. As the Zephyrian fleet limped toward the edge of the system, their escorts of teenagers gradually peeled off and returned to the colony, though not before spelling out thanks for visiting in plasma exhaust across the fleet's rear sensors. Sir, Captain Blort said quietly. What do we tell command when we get back? Vextol was quiet for a long moment, watching the tactical display as the last of the human escorts performed what appeared to be a synchronized aerobatics routine before heading home. We tell them the truth, Captain. We tell them that we attempted to conquer a human colony with 17 heavy cruisers, 43 destroyers, and the most advanced military technology in the quadrant. And we were defeated by farmers with modified tractors, teenagers on flying motorcycles, a woman who reverse-engineered our entire fleet using kitchen appliances, and a man who turned an alien invasion into a paperwork problem. Sir, they're never going to believe that. No, probably not. But it's the truth. Vextol straightened his uniform and tried to salvage what remained of his dignity. Captain Blort, you are hereby promoted to commander. Congratulations, sir. Because I am about to be demoted to something so low it doesn't have a name yet. Possibly galactic example of what happens when you don't listen to intelligence reports. Thank you, sir. I think. As the fleet jumped to hyperspace, Jake Morrison's final transmission followed them into the void. Safe travels, Commander. Oh, and if any of your friends want to visit, just remember to bring the proper forms. We've streamlined the process since your visit. It's down to only 12 pages now. 6 months later, New Terra Colony had become the most popular tourist destination in human space. The authentic alien invasion experience featured guided tours of the battlefield, demonstrations of Elena's reverse-engineered technology, and a gift shop that sold t-shirts reading "I survived the galaxy's most embarrassing military defeat." Commander Blort, now in charge of what remained of the Zephyrian expedition, had been promoted 3 more times after writing what became the definitive military textbook on human warfare tactics. The book, titled "They're All Insane But It Works: A Practical Guide to Human Military Doctrine," became required reading at military academies across 17 star systems. Former Commander Vextol was eventually promoted to director of the newly created Department of Human Affairs, where his first-hand experience with human unpredictability was considered invaluable. His office was decorated with a framed photo of Gerald the pet pumpkin and a signed copy of Bob Miller's comedy album. Dr. Elena Vasquez won the Galactic Science Prize for her work on applied xenotechnology integration using common household items. Her acceptance speech included a demonstration of how to build a functional plasma cannon using a microwave, 3 coffee makers, and what she called aggressive optimism. Jake Morrison was promoted to regional administrator for the entire sector and immediately began implementing the New Terra Protocol for colonial defense, which basically consisted of making every human settlement so confusing and chaotic that potential invaders would give up and go home, rather than try to figure out what was going on. Roy Thompson opened a consulting firm called Creative Problem Solving for Fun and Profit and became the galaxy's leading expert on turning farming equipment into weapons of mass confusion. And every year on the anniversary of the invasion, the colony held a festival called The Day We Proved Humans Are Weird, featuring a parade, a science fair, and a competition to see who could come up with the most ridiculous way to defeat an alien invasion using only items from their garage. The Galactic Council, in their infinite wisdom, issued an official decree stating that any military action against human settlements required a minimum of 3 psychologists, 2 philosophers, a physicist with a sense of humor, and at least 1 expert in what they termed applied human nonsense. Because if there was one thing the galaxy had learned from the Great Terra Colony incident, it was that when humans say "hold my beer and watch this," the correct response is to find somewhere very far away to watch from. The universe, it turned out, had a sense of humor after all. And that sense of humor was apparently human.